Welcome to Serenity Speaks, Conversations on Wellness. I'm your host, Cleo, and I'm so excited to kick off season 2 with an incredible guest who truly embodies resilience and transformation. I'm joined by Jamie Owens, an ex-soldier turned rehabilitation specialist. And Jamie and I first crossed paths during a Tai Chi for rehabilitation course. And I was immediately inspired by his unique perspective on mindset and well-being. In this episode, we'll dive into Jamie's journey from life in the military to helping others heal and the powerful connection between mindset and mental health, and how we can condition our thoughts to shape a better day, a better week, or even a better life. So grab a cup of tea, find a comfy spot, and let's explore the wisdom Jamie has to share. You won't want to miss it. Hi Jamie, thank you so much for taking time out today.
Morning Cleo, thank you for having me. I currently work out in the world of fitness. I'm a rehabilitation specialist, and the main kind of cut and thrust of the work that I do is delivering a rehabilitation program for people who are living with joint pain issues, really, and any kind of associated condition related to that. And what kind of drew me to the Tai Chi for rehab course that we did was that nobody else was offering that in the place that I work.
Yeah.
And sort of having read the course kind of information is absolutely perfect for the work that I'm doing. And I think at a professional level, it's great because it's a different way of having a conversation about kind of movement with clients, but at a personal level, it just adds a bit of balance to my practice. It's not all fire and brimstone and kind of jumping about and getting sweaty. We can still get some work done in a very, very different way. Yeah,
Absolutely. And so that's a similar reason that brought me to Tai Chi for rehabilitation. And what I understood really was to be able to offer, like you say, something a bit different from what I'd been doing, which was yoga, but also because it's got such powerful effects on the body, especially for people who, whether it's elderly or have had stroke, so many reasons. It's a really great practice. And one of the things while we were on the course, there was a section of the course where people were telling stories. And you told a story, and straight away I remember thinking, oh gosh, that would be really good to have on the podcast, because really this is about how we can kind of help ourselves when, the physical health is, I don't want to say easy enough, but it's like we can exercise. If you want to, you can go to a doctor, you can get your tablets. There's things, it seems more open when we think about our physical health. But when we're thinking about our mental health, our well-being, our self-care, those things seem a bit more kind of out there. And I just wanted for listeners to have that outlet, a way to help support themselves mentally and emotionally. And the story you told, I just thought it was really inspiring. It made me smile, and I thought, wow, that's quite powerful. So I don't know if you would mind just telling us that story now.
Yeah, no problem. So to kind of give a bit of context, the section of the course, Mark was kind of introducing the concept of storytelling as a way to kind of convey deeper sort of meaning. So it could be any story, if you remember. But if we weave that meaning in there in the form of concepts, then it's a way to lead people to their own conclusions and empower them at the same time, as opposed to kind of presenting facts,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the story goes a little bit like this, and obviously I'm going to have to modify it for the purposes of the podcast.
Okay.
So it relates to a time when I was in the army, and we were out on a place called Salisbury Plain. I'm sure some of your listeners may well have heard of that place. And we'd been out on exercise for around about sort of 6 weeks, and then we found out that the last 2 days of the exercise would be a march and shoot exercise. So it's basically covering a chunk of distance over a couple of days, and that's the end of the exercise kind of thing. We ended up on the ranges, and it was my first experience after being promoted of kind of leading a team of soldiers sort of out in the field, like in a less controlled environment, shall we say.
In the wilderness.
In the wilderness, yeah. So, first day of the march and shoot was absolutely fine. The last day of the march and shoot, the beginning of the day, and this is kind of standard stuff. You get out of a warm, dry sleeping bag, and you're putting on wet, muddy clothes that have been sort of getting to room temperature, shall we say, overnight, which is a challenge, and it's an instant drain on your morale if you allow it to be. As you might well imagine, like in a large group of soldiers, there's enough ego to sink a battleship. Do you know what I mean? And so like everybody tries to sort of brave it out and get the stiff upper lip on and kind of crack on into the day. As we started to progress into the day, and when I say progress into the day, it was probably within about 15 or 20 minutes. There was a bit of complaining and a bit of moaning starting to happen, and it was starting to cause me to sort of rethink my strategy for the day, because everybody's in the same boat. We're all 6 weeks into kind of sleep deprivation, composite rations, which are good for keeping you going, but they cause their own little sets of problems. Well, just the normal stuff, we're just tired, basically. And I'd had enough. I was in the same boat, but because I was leading, I had to do something. And so I kind of directed everybody to kind of come off the route. We got into cover. I sort of directed that we get a brew on, because that's kind of standard stuff, smoke them if you've got them, that kind of thing. And then I just had a conversation and basically said, well, no more moaning. If we get to the stage whereby we're moaning again, then we perhaps conduct the conversation in slightly different terms, and that I'll leave you listeners to kind of imagine what that might look like. I said, that being said though, and this is something that you can't, if you tell soldiers not to do a thing, the chances are they're probably going to do it.
Oh, okay. Even soldiers.
No, even soldiers. It's one of the, like when we're in that situation. So I was like, right, if you're gonna moan. Yeah, but I want the first words out of your mouth after you've moaned to be, but I am happy. Any deviation from that, and it was one of those ones like, that's an order, sort of thing, any deviation from that will result in the conversation going a different way, right? And they're all like, we're chuntering and that, you know what I mean? Because they're getting moaned at, and it was like, well, I'm moaning at you for moaning, like.
Yeah.
So that was that. We get back out onto the track, and to the point I've just made, within 10, 20 metres, somebody's so I've kind of spun round, eyes on a swivel, like, but I'm happy. And this created a little bit of a giggle. Well, we progressed throughout the day, and it descended into just madness, really, because now they've taken that framework, and like in the army and within most places, well, you've got that freedom within a framework. It's like, these are the rules. Within that, you're free to do whatever you want. So of course then, you know, like I had the mickey taken out of me, and it was like, oh yeah, Jim, we're going to your mum's house at the weekend, but we're happy, laughing, right? And so within the space probably of a couple of hours, and the sun had come up by then, and we were sort of like getting a bit warmer, and our kit was drying out. The spirits had lifted, and we got a bit of genuine morale going. We kind of get to the end of the day, almost to the end of the day, and I spotted off in the distance all of the brass of the regiment. So there was the commanding officer, the second in command, the regimental sergeant major, all stood there. So I've turned round to my section, and I'm like, right, get your head on, look now like you're ready to do the job. Yeah? This is it. Like, we've just got to make this look good. A couple of hours, we're done, basically, and then we'll be able to get back to camp and do what we need to do. So we patrolled through. The commanding officer I used to be his driver. So he's like, oh, morning, Corporal Owens, how are we doing? Yeah, good. All good, sir, thank you, yeah. Kind of swaggered through. The regimental sergeant major, just like, do what they do and just give me this evil look. Morning, sir. I've carried on patrolling through. Not remembering at this point that I've got 7 lunatics behind me now, right? And all I'm thinking is, please get through. Nobody fall over. Nobody get dug up for anything, and nobody say anything stupid, right? And to their credit, most of the lads did exactly that. They got to my 2IC, and it's like, Corporal Paxton, how are you? Sir, feels like I'm carrying sandpaper between the cheeks of my bottom, but I am so happy about that, right? All the lads have started laughing, and I'm thinking, that's it, I'm a dead man now. That's it, I'm just a dead man. But I didn't say anything to them, because I was so proud of them for just getting through the day and making that decision to listen to what I'd said. And it's not like I sort of brewed this strategy up out of any kind of experience. I was on the hoof. I just thought, okay, I knew that you can decide to feel however you want, so I just put it on them. And they did it. The regimental sergeant major came and found me and was just like, Corporal Owens, on me now. And I'm like, oh, here we go. This is it then. This is now where I die. And he was like, what are you on? We're like, what do you mean, what am I on, sir? Don't you answer the question? I've asked the question. What are you on? Have you not been drinking out there or something? I'm like, no, sir. No, well, what do you mean? He was like, yours was the only section who came through with their chins up, laughing. Wow. What did you do? And I just told him, I gave him a choice. Like, be happy. Or don't be happy. Do you know?
Or shut up.
Or shut up, basically.
God.
And that was the story. And I hadn't considered until I was thinking about what story to tell, because Mark's instruction was just like, come up with a story, and it's like, that's really hard.
Yeah, it is off the cuff. Right,
you know? And really, so I've been thinking about it. All I did was gave them the option to give themselves permission to choose how they felt about the situation. The fact, you know, and this, I think there's a broader application with this. Life is life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the facts of your life are as they are. If we can change them, we can change them, right? Some things are objectively bad, and sometimes the decision to respond negatively to a situation is the most appropriate one. The bottom line is that we always have a choice.
Yeah.
We have a choice how we respond to incoming stimuli.
We really do. Yeah.
You know, and that was the nuts and bolts of the story, really.
The key for me, because you know, there's lots of ways. Like you hear the different sayings that you know you can only control yourself. You're only responsible for yourself and your own words and your own actions. But it's how you deal with, like you say, what's coming at you, that makes your life easier, if you want to say. Yeah, so some people are of the idea that if bad stuff's happening, or just life, you know, if you're fed up or depressed even, that the only way out of that is to be prescribed some tablets. And it's a really hard concept or idea, that choosing how you feel, because I know I've spoken to people who don't believe that feeling sad or even feeling happy is a choice. Some people don't believe that you can get up in the morning and start your day as you choose. And I think, again, that's a lot to do with how, maybe it's conditioning, maybe it's the idea that that's not how life works. We can't choose to be happy. You're happy if you've got a set of, I don't know, basics, you know, like it's a,
I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head by just saying conditioning. Conditioning has a massive part to play in all of our everyday lives, you know, for good or for bad. I think when it comes to, you know, you said about mental health and about being prescribed, you know, these pills, all right. In really, really bad cases, those kind of medical interventions, pharmaceutical interventions rather, can help alleviate some of the symptoms. But if we're not addressing the underlying causes, then it's useless. And what we're doing is we're disempowering people.
yeah.
And I say, I mean the royal we, like we as a society, we're disempowering people. You know, I speak for myself as well. I've at points in my life have been on antidepressant medication, and actually it was reconnecting with my body and reconnecting with my overall just sort of health and fitness was transformational. And on that basis I stopped taking them. You know, and as part of that journey, it's like learning, like relearning, like how to think. It's not so much what to think, it's about how to think. And, you know, as cliched as this is going to sound, it's like taking your power back.
No, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
like taking your power back. If you wake up in the morning, right, and you're full of the grumbles and you want to have a moan, own it. Like, own it. Have the moan, have the grumbles. But no, that's your choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And then bringing that outside into the world will dictate your day.
Yes.
It will.
Yes. You know, how many times have you heard somebody say, "Oh, you've made me really angry there now"?
Yeah.
Well, that's made me really sad. Has it?
Because it hasn't.
Has it really? You know, or really, have you just had a look at what's going on, and have you chosen to be sad? Are you projecting some of the stuff that's happened to you into that situation and using it as an excuse to kind of scratch that itch, as it were? Maybe, maybe not. You know what I mean? I'm not.
No, absolutely, because I think there is. So, I've spoken to some people who are very straightforward with, you know, the whole idea of mental health is rubbish. It's people of our generation, I'll say, they just think this is a made-up thing that someone's made up, and that no one's actually depressed. They don't believe in depression, and we should man up, for use of a better term. Do you know what I mean? But that's the idea. And then there's people who believe that, you know, it is the most important thing, which is really important. It's our health, just as important as our physical health. But again, don't believe necessarily that we can do anything about it. Again, like if you're depressed, you're depressed. if you suffer with an anxiety, that's your life. That's it. You can't change that. That's just the way it is. And so I think there's a real kind of conflict at the moment of this idea of, well, you know, this is a bit airy-fairy over there.
Yeah.
And then there's this idea of, well, we need to be in touch with ourselves. And I really think it's a bit of both. Like for myself, so I also was prescribed antidepressants, and I took them, but they didn't help. And every time I went to the doctors, they'd say, we'll up the dosage. It wasn't doing anything for me. I literally couldn't see the difference in my life. I think I was expecting that I'd take the tablet and I'd be on cloud nine. I thought I'd be ecstatic. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so they kept up in the dosage, and so after the third time I said, it's not happening, it's not working, maybe this is a little sign for me that there's got to be something else.
Yeah.
And I was already practicing yoga and stuff, so I went more in that direction. But again, for like the podcast, I think that there's people who might be, you know, sitting at home, listeners, who think you cannot control your thoughts, you cannot control how you feel. It's not possible.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think it's so interesting and fascinating to talk with you is because when you were a soldier, that's exactly the story you've told us. That's something about you personally. You know, the fact that your boss explained that everybody else has come back in a certain mood, a certain level, but you came back and your team is laughing, happy. Do you know what I mean? That, I think that's really powerful. But that's you as a person rather than the soldier environment.
Yeah.
But as soldiers, you are trained, I suppose, to not only for survival or to fight, but to see things in a certain way, or learn to see things in a certain way, and to be very, what's the word? Well, you kind of, again, choose your day, choose how things are going to be, because you've got this structure to work in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. But like, you learn very quickly. And I mean, you know, you've got to bear in mind that, like, I joined the army in 1996.
Wow.
It's a different. It's almost a different universe.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, without going into sort of too much detail, but you know, like, certain things were illegal in the army when I joined.
Yeah.
That like it's no longer illegal. And you kind of learn very quickly. That's kind of part of the training, is that your individuality doesn't matter.
Wow.
How you feel about a certain thing is inconsequential.
Wow, really?
Yeah, well, yeah. If you think about it, do you know what I mean? If we're in the middle of a situation and somebody just wakes up and decides, no, I don't really fancy this today. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't work.
Can't happen.
It just doesn't work, and so it's like, do the thing that's being asked of you. Right, moan by all means as you're doing it internally or after it's done, but like there isn't any room for that. And I think that it comes down to selflessness, really. That's the kind of the biggest culture shock for me, was this idea of it's not about you as an individual, and so we were trained that we look out for each other. Right. And if everybody is looking out for everybody else, then you've got almost like a self-policing, self-sustaining kind of organism in terms of like a group of soldiers. You know, but as far as things like mental health go and all that kind of stuff, like, that wasn't a conversation. And you mentioned like people of our generation. I understand why some people from our generation would be resistant to the concept of mental health, because there was no vocabulary for it.
No.
People say, oh, he's got the blues.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got the blues, or he's a bit miserable, or whatever.
That's it. And there was it's still there, the stigma. I remember they'd say, I can't remember the hospital here in Birmingham, like if you did something that was a bit off key, like, oh, we'll send you off to, I can't remember the name of the hospital, but yeah, we'll send you off to the hospital, meaning, you know, and the description of like a loony or you've lost the plot, that kind of thing. So you're right, there wasn't a conversation, it was just the idea that you're mad and, you know, there's nothing to talk about. Someone said it to me the other day about the idea that I was talking about, this was in a yoga class as well, I was talking about the idea of when you're saying to yourself, you know, breathe in this, you know, how do you feel? Don't say to yourself, well, this is difficult. Say you can achieve this, it's, you know, it's easy. And they said, oh yeah, you know, back in the day, if you were talking to yourself, they'd say, they would say you were mad. And I was thinking, gosh, yeah, even that's changed. The idea of having a conversation with yourself, like you say, in the 80s, it wouldn't have sounded right. It didn't fit in. And we've kind of gone through that transition, I suppose, with trying to, which is good because we're having the conversations now, and change is possible. But would you say, like, it was interesting you said, so you were about 20, is that right?
I was 21 when
21,
I joined,
21. And at that time, what were the reasons? Was it the feeling of camaraderie? I mentioned this before we started. Was it about being kind of in a team of people, being away from home?
Yeah, I think.
Well, you joined.
I mean, I joined the cadets as soon as I was able to do that, because there wasn't necessarily a great deal going on in Leicester at the, you know, sort of back at the back end of the 80s. It wasn't a great place to be, you know, and there was nobody was really doing anything. And I remember going to cadets with one of my friends from school, and just instantly fell in love with it. Just fell in love with the idea of the thing. And again, you've got to think, you know, like our grandparents' generation were all in the war, and stuff that was about, it was all talk of the war, and it was still not necessarily new, but that's what was there, you know. And I think, you know, like Action Man was there on the telly. It was always about the troubles in Ireland, and then there was the Falklands and the SAS at Prince's Gate in like 82 or whenever it was. Like that was there, and it was like, God, do you know what I mean? And so when I joined the cadets, I found that I was good. I was good at the thing, and I loved it, and that was it. Then I was like, I'm going to join the army when I'm 16. My mum had different ideas about that.
She didn't want you to go in.
No, it was just, no, you must get a trade. You must get a trade, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I could get one in the army. No, you must, and it was like, okay. So I did that, and I ended up moving to Scotland. So half my family's from Scotland, thinking like it would be different, and it wasn't.
Oh, okay. What do you mean, like the environment?
There was nothing
going on.
There was nothing there. And then I was just like, all right, I'm joining the army. And, you know, I'd like to say there was this grand strategy, but I just walked into the careers office and just said, I'd like to join the army, please. And the sergeant behind the desk was like, well, who do you want to join? I was like, I don't care.
Whichever one.
I don't care, I'm not bothered. I just want to do it. And at that point, it was a combination of things, really. I think it was about, can I do it?
The challenge.
It was the challenge, like, can I do this? You know, like, properly. There was a bit of that. It was about getting out of the environment that I was in. Not because it was bad necessarily, it was just because, like, there was nothing going on. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it was like, well, I'm 21, I'll do what I want now. Like somebody, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I want somebody to tell me, like, you can't do that sort of thing. And so that's how it came about. And so I did it. And it was brilliant.
Did you find that the initial, you know, like I'm picturing that whole idea, I want to go in the army, so they say, yeah, come on, you come in. Was there any part of you at the beginning that felt daunted by the idea, or was it really more about get in and get on with it, like whatever comes, I'm good?
I remember going to the recruit selection centre, and that was, we were all there, all little kind of scrawny civilians, and we'd got like physical tests to do, and you're being observed all the time, and it was all good, and I didn't train at all. Because like these days, you know, you can go online and you can get training programs, you know what I mean. Like back then, you know, my in fact, all of my army career was fueled by lager and cigarettes largely. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like I turned up to this thing, and we got like a run to do, mile and a half run. That worried me, but I passed it.
Wow. Okay.
So I was swaggering about like, yes, like I'd
that
done
was
it.
Easy, yeah.
You kind of swear your oath, you do all that kind of thing. I wasn't daunted until I kind of arrived in Edinburgh at the train station, and there was just this dude there, man. And it like wasn't massive, but he just got this presence about him, and then I felt like really tiny, and I like the adrenaline was going then, and it was real.
Overwhelming, yeah.
You know what I mean? But I loved it.
Yeah.
Because like I couldn't do most of the stuff. There was stuff obviously they don't teach you in the cadets, but like basic stuff like foot drill and handling weapons and ironing my kit. I could already do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I was loving it. But what I didn't realise was that completely singled me out, because like everybody said, don't say you're in the cadets, and so I didn't.
Okay, but you could still do the stuff, so they must have
But
noticed.
obviously, exactly, they noticed, and so like they left me alone for a few weeks, and then they came for me hard. Do you know what I mean?
And how did you find that? Like, did you feel that? Like, so it's that thing that I suppose what I'm driving at is the idea of the whole time you were going through this process. Was there a part of you that was thinking about it in that way, like this is good for me mentally? Not at all. It was just about.
No, and I thank you. You've completely overestimated my cognitive abilities at the time, because I was just there.
Yeah.
And I was there. I was in the army, and I was doing really cool stuff. Yeah. So I didn't think about it, and where there was a lot of resistance, which there is, and that's like the early phases. Well, particularly when you're going through training, there's a lot of resistance, and they come for you and they try and break you down. Well, I was having too good of a time. I did anything that they threw at me. I just loved it, and got stuck into it, and that's why they kind of came for me, because I was completely open to anything that they were telling me. I was just soaking it up, soaking in the knowledge, but like they couldn't get me, and I realised, like with hindsight, that I was resisting in my own way. And like it's quite a sophisticated process, and they got me. I think at the end of that, once I'd kind of got through, particularly like phase 1 training, once I'd gotten through that, then things started to kind of click, and I understood, oh wow, like I've got a new job title now.
Wow. Okay.
I'm now a soldier. I'm a thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like that kind of weight of responsibility starts coming down, and it's like, oh right, okay then. So now the training actually begins.
Starts.
I'm gonna sort of learn to do the job.
So would you say it's a kind of like going for the training in the army at the time, because like you say it's different now, is a kind of mastery of yourself?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And it's a mastery of your mind.
It's
a
totally.
game. Like you like when you get there, you realise after a few weeks, it's a game. Like they're playing a game with you. And so once you kind of get into it, it's like, well, no, you're not gonna beat me. Like you're not gonna beat me now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the mindset that you need to have really as a soldier, because it is going to be uncomfortable. You know, and whilst it is uncomfortable when you're going through training or when you're out on exercise, it's nowhere near as uncomfortable as deploying on operations. Then that's uncomfortable in a different way, because then all your training that you've done, we're now putting into practice. So it has to be uncomfortable. And you mature in a different way. You know, I can remember kind of going back to where I grew up. You know, after being in the army for maybe a year, 18 months or what have you, and looking at people who I'd left when I left to move to Scotland, they're still doing the same things as they were doing like before I left. And so that was different. That kind of made me sort of sit back and think, oh right, okay.
Yeah. To kind of look at yourself over that period of time, see how much you'd grown and the experiences that you were having, and then there were people who were just still kind of stuck in place. So you knew straight away, wow, you felt that this is a good experience for me, this is something that I'm really...
It was, I think at the time, you know, again, at the time it was just like, all right, I'm in the army now. Like, this is what we're doing. I was just having the time of my life. It was great. Do you know what I mean? I was young. It was different, you know, and it was the 90s. It was the 90s. Like, I know it's going to sound really old, but it feels like that's the last time, like, that as a country we were happy.
Because it's almost like ignorance is bliss, isn't it? If you don't, it's like we've all, well, you know, in the Matrix where there's the blue or the red pill, and we've taken the pill, we're all woken up, but actually, if we look at everything now as we stand today and think about all the things that would have happened at that time that we couldn't see, that was behind the curtains, you think, oh my God. But, like you say, it felt great, it felt amazing. Like, there's certain things that have changed now, and you just think, especially for the young people, that I think it's such a shame. You know, the idea of not clubbing on a Friday night because you're scared your drink's going to get spiked or you're going to get stabbed. Do you know what I mean? I think that's such a sad...
It's really sad.
You know, to take away the teenage years of what we were doing then, having the time of our lives.
I you know, I think the younger generations, they come in for a lot of flack, and I don't subscribe to any of that kind of nonsense, because there's a whole kind of divide and conquer narrative that's all pervasive wherever you look. I think they get a hard time sometimes unnecessarily. You know, they were born into a world where, you know, technology is a thing. You know, technology is a useful tool. But like that's where they conduct their social lives. You know, and why would they not? If they've got that risk of going out and getting stabbed, going out and getting spiked, all of those kinds of things, why would they not conduct their lives, you know, using technology? The flip side of that coin, right, is that the batteries can run out of technology, can't they?
And then what do you do?
How then do you socialise? How then do you connect? And so for me, you know, the work that we do, working in fitness, connecting people with their bodies and their minds, and talking to them about their minds is fantastic. You know, we don't see too many young people in the gym, but you know, I'd like to change that. So tell me a bit. So you work in the gym and you help people to connect with their bodies. Is that something? So like if I
came and saw the gym from the outside, would I think, oh, it's a gym, it's like a regular gym, or is it something that's different that people would notice or see?
Well,
that this is...
I work with Nuffield Health.
Ah, okay.
So when people see that kind of logo, they associate that with
absolutely.
probably more with the hospitals, to be fair.
Yeah.
So there is that point of difference.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, it's like any gym. You look at it from the outside, you know, it look like it's built out of Lego. You can see people, shadows of people kind of jumping about, like, in the building. It looks like any other gym, but in my opinion, it's the best one there is.
Yeah.
You know, because it's rammed full. I'm really, really fortunate and blessed actually to work alongside some super talented people who are really, really knowledgeable and passionate about the work they do. And it just makes life at work really, really easy and rewarding as well. Because like the client group that I work with are damaged. Their bodies are damaged in one way or another. 9 times out of 10, they're not as damaged as they believe they are, and that's just based on the stories that they've told themselves. You know, it's like if you remember on the course, Mark was like, "Well, go on then, show me what you can't do," and I'm shamelessly have stolen that because I just love it.
And me,
it's just
powerful,
brilliant,
isn't it? Yeah, it's really. Show me what you can't do.
Show me what you can't do.
Yeah. Because it's like the idea, and again, it's, I would say, in every part of life, that was what was brilliant about Mark's training, is that it's for Tai Chi, it's for our physical bodies, but for ourselves to understand, like, we create the limitations. Like this idea that we can't do things is, oh well, I can't. And I know there's that whole saying, can't doesn't exist. Or, you know. I'm over anybody who's listening to this, who's ever been on one of my classes will know my thoughts on that. It's like you can't drop the C-bomb around me. Because it's a real thing. You can surprise yourself if you want to. You can choose. You can test in every moment, in every day. Let me try this and prove it to yourself. It doesn't have to be something somebody tells you. You can just prove that to yourself, and it is so powerful. Yeah, it is. What would you say? You know, after you'd come, why did you leave the army, by the way?
Just it had come to that point whereby I needed to kind of move on. I'd gotten what I needed from it, and everything was kind of changing. And it just felt like, I don't know, without going into too much detail, I'd kind of, the glamour had faded somewhat, and I got to kind of see, I saw and witnessed some things that I didn't necessarily align with, and so it was like, that's it, time's up. No hard feelings. I had a great time, but it was just time for me to kind of move on and do other things.
And did you go straight into working at the gym or being?
Oh no. I just carried on a bit of a nomad's path really, and just I dotted about, done various different stuff related to things that I either learned in the army or other interests.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. It's a good way to choose the things that you do. That took me many years to realise that you can pick a job or a vocation that you actually are interested in, rather than just saying I need to pay bills. Which a lot of us do, I think. Just got to pay bills, where you can actually find something that is interesting to you, and it gives it a bit more passion and drive, I suppose, that you get up in the morning wanting to, you know, challenge yourself and go out into the world in that way, rather than, you know, I wish I was doing something else. Yeah. And so where you are now, do you feel like this is where you, want to be, because you're helping people in the community.
Yeah.
And you can inspire people. You can have an effect, a real deep effect when it comes to physical and mental health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like for the way I work, if I'm working with the groups or if I'm working with private clients, or just clients even in the gym, it's never just about one thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you come to me and you've got bad knees, it's not just about your bad knees, is it?
Yeah.
Let's have a talk and let's consider the whole thing. So, in short answer to your question, Cleo, yeah. I couldn't see myself doing anything else at this precise moment in time. And I mean, you must get the same thing as well, right?
Yeah.
If you're working with people and you've had that positive effect on them, how's that feel for you?
So sometimes I'll be in here, like there's a mirror of a cross in this cupboard here, and I'll be massaging away, and then I'll look up and I'll look at myself and I just smile, because I think, look at you. If somebody would have told me even last year, so I started last year, but if, like, say 5 years ago, I don't think, even though when I look at my life, I've actually been doing these courses, and I've always said I've done them for myself, like training to be a yoga therapist. It was back in 2008, and I just did it because I wanted to do that, because I was fascinated by, I've always been fascinated by the way people think and how we do things, why we do things. That's always been there. But yeah, so if I'd have really paid attention to the things I was doing in my spare time, it would have been a big clue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just went through a long period of my life just doing that thing, paying bills, and that was it. Yeah, I love what I do, and I love people's reactions to enjoying a yoga class and challenging themselves, or just feeling the relief in their body, or feeling pampered because they've had a facial. Yeah. And I question, like, why did I wait my whole life to get to this point? But maybe you have to go along that path to find the things that really make you tick.
100%. Yeah, and things will only ever unfold the way they unfold, and they can only ever unfold the way they're supposed to be. And what you're getting from each situation. Yeah. I think Tai Chi, though, at a personal level, like what I've gained from that is huge. It's a huge understanding of, like, my own body. But, like, I started introducing some Tai Chi pretty much from when we started the course. So when was that? Was that March? May.
Was it May? Yeah, I was saying March as well. Yeah, but it was May. Was it?
Yeah.
May, middle of the year.
And so since May, I'm hounded constantly. Jamie, when's Tai Chi coming up? When I'm qualified? Right. Okay then. So it was like a couple of weeks ago. Jamie, when's Tai Chi coming? I'm like, I don't do that. Like, it'll come on. Like, it's done. But, like, and I'm not complaining about that, because I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Just because within that class, everybody, regardless of your ability level, can get something.
Absolutely.
Out of doing that practice.
It is.
And with some people, it can be a kickstart to go, all right, if I can do that, then I can do more.
Yeah.
I get it from my joint pain people.
Yeah, because
you seem to have this habit of making me do things that I didn't think I could do, so I haven't made you do anything. You chose to do it, and you gave me permission to do it. You know what I mean?
Being a guide, isn't it? Like, remember, or reminding people about their own capabilities, but mindset as well. And I think that's, again, something that kind of stood out from the story you told, but about you as well. It's about your mindset, because people, again, I think you can get into the habit of finding fault with a situation. You can get into the habit of having a moan, but the energy and the time that you're taking to have a moan and find fault, it's actually, you can turn it around, find a solution. Actually, that's not working like that, let's try this, instead of that's not working. And kind of look at things in a different way. And if there's somebody at home, right, who actually needs rehabilitation in some way, I don't know, so something like that you mentioned, knees, they've damaged the knees, or maybe they've had a knee replacement or a hip replacement, but they're not really doing much active wise. What would be the kind of thing that you would say to, like, encourage somebody, or, you know, if someone's kind of sitting at home and feeling...
Well, you know, it just boils down to a simple question, really. Like, do you enjoy having the use of your body?
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
You know, and I realise that it's quite a direct, closed question. Because if they say no, all right, carry on sitting down, do you do?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But the majority of people are going to say, yeah, because like you say,
yeah,
like,
it could. Where they're going to go with that? So as soon as you say yes, well, use your body then.
Yeah. And
I think just use your body. You know, if you know, I would assume anybody who's listening to this has the means to be able to get onto the internet.
Yeah.
If you can get onto the internet, if you've got bad knees, right, look up how to rehab a bad knee. Like it's that simple. But then, you know, what we put onto one side, we've got to put onto the other. So, like, you've got to do both knees. Well, if you're going to do your knees, you might as well do your hips and your ankles as well, and maybe kind of bring your back, shoulders, and elbows into it. You know what I mean? Like, just move your body is the bottom line, right?
Yeah, get started.
I think the thing though, with a lot of people, you know, we talked about the stories that we tell about ourselves, you know, the stories that we believe, and sometimes it's other people's stories about us that we can kind of internalise. Stories. So I don't know whether we did this on the course, but like if you pick a random word, you know, and say it in your mind, like, you can hear that word, can't you?
Yeah.
Even though you've not produced the sound, you can. Well, who's hearing that?
Yeah, only one person.
But if you're making that sound in your mind, you can't be making that sound and hearing it at the same time. And it's about separating you out from that voice in your head. Now, this is I don't know whether it's a personal spiritual belief, metaphysical belief, whatever it is. But I am not the voice in my head. I am not this body. Right?
Yeah.
So essentially, I, at a really deep fundamental level, am witnessing the experiences of Jamie. I'm witnessing the emotions and the thoughts of Jamie.
Absolutely.
And so I use that as a way. So when I get that voice saying, because I get it as well, it's like, eat the chocolate, eat the cake.
Yeah, eat the cake.
Do you know what I mean? Eat the cake, eat the chocolate. We don't need to do any training today. It's fine. Don't move your body. Stay in bed. I can tell that voice politely to be quiet, or even just disregard it and just carry on about my business.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
Now, really, really simple. By no means is it easy. Because again, if we loop back to your original point about conditioning, you know, like you made earlier on in the conversation, you know, we're conditioned, aren't we, with certain things? We're conditioned to conform. We must listen to the doctor because the doctor knows exactly what they're talking about. Why do they?
Yeah.
All right, they're highly qualified, and I'm not, by no means am I disparaging doctors or the medical profession, right? But a doctor doesn't know you.
Yeah, you know yourself.
But we are conditioned to conform.
Yeah, to think the doctor knows best, and no matter what they say, follow that, you'll be all right.
You'll be absolutely fine. Okay? It doesn't work. It's like with physio. Physio's fantastic, but it only, like, it works on the assumption that you're doing at least the bare minimum to work and train your body. Like, the amount of people who say, oh yeah, well, you know, like, I had physio and it was rubbish. I said, well, like, what were you doing at the time? Well, just the exercises that the physio's done. Oh, right, okay, fantastic. You know, I've been great. You might have some great, like, knee rehab chops going on, but if you've done nothing with your hips, what's the point?
Yeah, it's working with the whole.
Yes.
Holistically, it's so true. It's so true. It's almost like we're drawn to or conditioned to believe we are separate, individual, entities, and it's kind of like these are the things that kind of can break us down if
Absolutely.
I don't feel connected.
Yeah.
I don't feel part of society. I feel alone because we're believing that we are, separate.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But by what standard are we judging that, right? If we're looking at it from this kind of day-to-day physical stuff, and we're looking at the environment at a really, really small scale, it's no wonder why some people feel isolated and divided, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're either in this camp, you're in that camp, you're left, you're right, you're, this religion, that religion, you're this gender, you're that gender, and it's all separation. Zoom out.
Yeah, that's it.
Zoom out. Like, all the way out. Zoom out. How are you separate from the universe? You're not. You are the universe. That's the trippy bit.
That's it. I love that as well. Zoom out.
Yeah, zoom all the way out. You're not a body with a soul. You are the soul with a body.
Yeah, that's decided to
flip it.
Yeah, it's so true.
Flip it over. There's a few people, I can't remember I can't remember who it was who said this, but I've seen it come up. It's like, just for one day, walk around as though you are God and you're observing your creation. And if you can do that and you can land that, see what that does for you, because then you're walking in the truth.
Yeah.
You're walking in the truth of the thing.
Yeah. The world that you've created for yourself, the mindset, the space that you're in.
Absolutely. You're not seeing the same things necessarily that I am, right? We can point to that object there, right? What is it?
Chair.
Right, I agree with you. It's a chair. The fact that it's called a chair doesn't make it a chair, does it? We just agree. Like that chair is a word, it's an abstraction. That's a chair, right? We recognise that as a chair. There's no way for us to prove that we're actually seeing the same chair in the same way, in the same context, and the same is true for our reality. So for each of us walking around, there is a universe, but it's all being created in the mind.
Yeah.
So then when you kind of overlay on top of that you're in control of yourself in terms of your responses to things, well, then you're creating your own reality. If you view the world as being a harsh place, and you view the world and the universe as being a really, really difficult place to be, then the universe will show you just how difficult a place it is to be. Right? If what you see around you is beauty and joy and optimism and opportunity,
then that's what you will receive.
And that's what you'll get.
Whatever you think is going on in your world, if you're bringing that with you, you're going to get more of that. And it is a hard thing to just forget about what's going on, what happened yesterday, leave it in yesterday and move forward. And again, I think this is that thought process or that way of living has a big impact on your well-being and your mental health. But like I say, it's getting into that space and understanding what that impact might have on you and how it might benefit you in the first place. Would you say that whilst you were a soldier, that was the thought process for you, that you've chosen to be there, you're going to enjoy it regardless, and like you say, to everything there comes a time where you've got to just move on anyway. But would you say that, do you think things would have been different for you as a person if you hadn't have gone through that experience, like if you'd have done a different job or been a personal trainer first? Or
undoubtedly. Yeah, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Yeah, it gave me, not only did it give me a purpose, but it gave me an identity, I think. Which is something that I kind of didn't establish as a younger person. Like, I was kind of all over the place. Which I suppose, like, with hindsight, most young people are, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of that thought process, like, again, there wasn't a lot of thinking going on about lofty things, like, whilst I was in the military, because I was in it. But yeah, I think with hindsight, it couldn't have happened any other way. I can't at this stage of my life, I can't even picture
What else you could have done?
what I would have done, or what I would be doing now. Probably I would be one of those people of our generation now, had I not been in the military, saying, "Oh, your mental health rubbish," blah, 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 blah. You know, be one of them. Because if nothing else, my horizons were broadened. You know, because I did get to go and see some places, and it wasn't like, you know, a lad's holiday or one of those kind of Brits abroad type. Like, you go into somewhere to do a job, and so you start to see the world differently.
Which is amazing, And that, listeners, wraps up this incredible first episode of season 2 of Serenity Speaks, Conversations on Wellness. I'd like to thank Jamie Owens for joining me today and sharing his inspiring journey and valuable insights on mindset and mental health. But this is just the beginning. Jamie will be back for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the whys and the hows of creating meaningful change in our lives. We'll talk about tips for starting change, incorporating rituals and routines, and taking small, manageable steps towards transformation. Plus, we'll explore how easing into change and even embracing failure can lead to long-term success. It's a conversation you don't want to miss. Make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified when part 2 drops. Until next time, take care of your mind, body and spirit. And remember, even the smallest steps can lead to huge change. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.